IVM.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hi guys, I'm your host Saif with my co-host Faiza, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories. We have with us Kaushal Karkhanis, also known as the Exotic Gringo, a slow traveler and a polyglot who believes in immersive cultural experiences. Let's jump into the episode and find out more. Kaushal, thank you so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories and welcome to the podcast.
Hi Kaushal, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me over.
Kaushal, the introduction that we gave about you is quite short. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners about yourself, about how traveling got to you, and also about your blog's name. It's quite an interesting name.
Yeah.
Sure. So I actually started traveling on my own perhaps in 2007.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
2007 is when I started traveling solo. It started off with what still remains my favorite place ever, which is Goa. So I did 4 trips in a whole year, and that's when I realized the travel bug had bitten already.
Perfect.
In that same year, I also did Bhutan, and that was followed by an epic trip to South America the next year.
Okay.
And that was a life-changing thing for me, and that's when not just travel, but also blogging started.
Yeah.
Yes, so as for the name, so like I said, the South America trip was a life-changing one. So the way we say Firangs or, the way we call out foreigners here in India
Right.
as Firangs, in South America, they are referred to as gringos.
Oh, okay.
Now, it's debatable whether gringo is a good word or a bad word, depending on context. But in today's day and age, it's actually become a very cool word, actually, which just means foreigner. It does not mean anything derogatory. It is just somebody who's a foreigner in South America. So because I was an Indian traveling in South America at that time, the locals would keep telling me that, oh, you are like an exotic gringo for us. And I just love that name.
That's an interesting story, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very quirky name. And if I'm not wrong, there was, I think, a Mel Gibson movie also, right? Not the Exotic Gringo, but the Gringo or something like that.
Yes. A couple of movies by those names.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're really excited. And I would, as we begin the interview, as we begin this conversation, I'd like to give a big shout out to Kaushal's blog as well. It's a very interesting blog, especially for those looking at travel to the South American countries. He's done that extensively. So please do go and check out Kaushal's blog, exoticgringo.com. I got that right?
Thanks,
Kaushal?
guys. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. So what we usually do, Kaushal, when we have travelers like you come over and speak with us, we request them to take us on a journey with them and tell us everything about that place, everything from A to Z about that place. So with that in mind, where are you taking us and our listeners to today?
Oh, I'm taking you guys to my favorite place in the whole world, which still happens to be Goa. Despite going all around the world, for me, it's just Goa is still my favorite place. And specifically, I'm going to take you to the Riverside Goa.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's because beachside Goa is now kind of oversaturated, and of course, it's way more commercial now.
Right.
But for a much more peaceful, simpler life, I now prefer the riverside of the state.
Okay.
Just because of its charm, its glory, but still retained.
Okay. We are all yours because I think up till now, every person that we've heard about has always spoken about the beaches in Goa. We don't get to hear much about the rivers, so yes.
And that's not to say the beaches aren't beautiful. They still are.
Absolutely, yeah.
But because I like my tranquility and peace, I prefer the riverside, non-commercial Goa.
Yeah, and also very less spoken of also, right, Kaushal? Because as I was reading up on this, I noticed that while there is about 100 kilometers of coastline, right, while there is 100 kilometers of beaches, etc., roughly in Goa, the river, like the inland waterways, right, the river part of Goa is close to 300 kilometers. So that's quite a bit of it's like a lifeline to Goa also in terms of providing water and trade and all of that stuff. So, very underrated in that sense too.
Absolutely. I mean, historically also, civilizations have always been based on the banks of rivers because they are the lifelines of, civilization or just life.
Sustainability, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so go on. We're all ears, as Faiza said, and we want to find out more because we've always just been enamored by the beaches of Goa this far, but we're waiting to find out more about the hidden gem that's the Riverside of Goa. So lay this out for us, Kaushal. Where are you taking us to, and what are the rivers that you want to be covering?
All right. So if you were to look at it, Goa has 11 main rivers. Of course, if you count tributaries, there are way more. I don't know the exact statistics, but there are 11 main rivers.
Yeah.
Among them, the ones which I know of or I'm kind of familiar with, I'll start from the top. The first one being Terekol or Tirakol.
Okay.
Followed by Shapora. Then you come down south to Baga. Then there is the Mapsa and the Mandovi rivers.
Okay.
And you keep going south. There is the Zuari, there is the Sal, and there is one more which I forget the name of. Then there are the backwaters in the south, the Agonda and the Dabolim backwaters, which are my favorite areas.
Okay.
There's also the Talpona and the Galjibag rivers. The beaches also get the names from the rivers,
Sure.
Talpona, Galjibag.
Right.
And then there is also the Kola Beach Lagoon. So now this is the only part of Goa which I have not been to yet. They say that that's the best and the most beautiful part of Goa, the Kola Beach and the Blue Lagoon there. But I've kind of kept that as a grand finale. I'm need to explore that place. Despite exploring Goa for the last 15 years, I still haven't been to this place.
Okay.
So let's start from the top,
Yes, please.
from Tirakol. Yeah, so Tirakol, like I was saying, it divides Maharashtra and Goa in a way. So
Right.
it's an interesting characteristic to this part of Goa. Although it technically divides Maharashtra and Goa, there is a tiny little bit of Goa which is north of the Tirakol River, and that's the Tirakol Fort. Now, Tirakol Fort is now converted into a hotel, a heritage hotel, but the fort is accessible to public as well. It's a beautiful place. I just recently went there. When I'm saying recently, just last year.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So it's a lovely place. I've been wanting to go there for a long time. Now, like I said, so the fort is accessible to everyone else. You can also go to the restaurant and the hotel and stay there. But that river is an underrated, lesser-known river. Even south of that, there is the Kerry Beach, which again, most people don't go to. The northernmost that people go to is Arambol.
Right.
So Tirakol and its backwaters are absolutely stunning. It's actually also a great picturesque location. When you go from Arambol towards Kerry, by bus, by car, whatever, that's one of the most beautiful drives of Goa, according to me. So especially in the monsoons or just post the monsoon, when the season begins, right, is when this region is lush, green. It's got these tiny islands in the backwaters. I don't know how accessible they are. I have not been there, but it makes for a great sight. It's very beautiful. So I have often stopped there just to soak in that sight, take pictures, and continue on my way towards either Kerry or Arambol.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Interesting,
And
yeah.
as you head southwards from here is when you move towards the Kerry village, you said, right?
That's right. So Kerry village, and then when you go south from that, there is Arambol, Mandrem. So now I'm talking to the beaches, right? There is Arambol, then there is Mandrem, Patnem, and then Morji.
Okay.
So as you keep going south from there, so these are all the beaches. I'm going to skip through those because we're
Sure.
talking about Riverside.
Right.
So you go down south from Morji, and then you come towards the Shapora River, which is my favorite river in Goa.
Oh, okay. And why is that?
Why is it my favorite? It's just because it's super tranquil. It is not. Very few people even go for a boat ride or a leisurely. It's not really a bird sanctuary or anything. But if you just go there on your own, it's, according to me, it's no less than a bird sanctuary. It's just beautiful. You'll also find these water buffaloes chilling around there. So it's according to me, it's the most tranquil. So I'm letting you in my secret. It's according to me the most tranquil part of Goa. As you go inland, as you go down the river, basically. And this river divides Morji to the north, and then there is the Siolim village, and further south, then there is Shapora and Vagator.
Okay.
So this whole region is my favorite region in Goa, just because despite it being so beautiful, so lush, it's not as touristy as you go down south towards, say, Baga, for example.
Okay, interesting. And also, historically speaking, I think this was the river that demarcated the Portuguese India from India, right? Because as a matter of fact, I think up until 1961 is when the Portuguese occupied the space, right? Including Goa.
That's right.
Right.
Because Goa got independence even after the rest of India did.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe we had studied this back in school, but I had no idea about this. When Seth mentioned, I was like, are you serious?
Seth really has his research. I am terrible, so thank you for filling in.
No, I just try because of curiosity, and it's not always that you have to wait to get to that place to read about it, right? So, Musafir Stories is one way for me to polish up my history and my geography, I guess. So, carry on, Kaushal. I was just giving you a little bit of a context around that.
Sure.
Demarcation.
So, from my little known history knowledge, I can tell you that Shapora actually gets its name from Shahapura. It's earlier called Shahapura. And from what I gather, again, I have little knowledge, which is dangerous. That used to be a Mughal territory at some point in time, and therefore Shahapura. And then that's Shapora. So then, of course, the Portuguese came in and everything changed.
Right. Interesting. And also about the other places in the vicinity, do you want to call out some of the ones that you mentioned?
Sure. So like I said, this is my favorite region, right? So there's also the Shapora Fort, which is made famous by Dil Chahta Hai.
Sure.
Yes.
That's around it is this fishing village of Shapora. There's the jetty, which you can take boats rides around. Then there is the Vado and the Siolim region, all around, just tranquil, beautiful. So if you ask me about things to do here, there are perhaps lesser things to do. But if your idea of having a great vacation or a trip is to just walk around soaking in nature's beauty, then according to me, there is no better place in Goa than this. And maybe south of Goa, but in the north, this is my favorite region.
Awesome.
As you go inland, when I'm saying inland, I mean down the river, you go towards the area of Kolwale, which is again this old fishing village, which has one of my favorite properties in all of Goa.
Okay.
Again, super tranquil. When they talk about pin drop silence, that's when I understand what pin drop means. It's
okay. And then what was the property you were referring to?
Oh, the property is called Casa Kolwale.
Okay, Casa Kolwale.
It's one of my favorite, perhaps number one favorite property in Goa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and while we're at it, how did you get about Goa? I know I've seen like a lot of tourists get on their own rides, like renting an Activa and stuff like that, and get around Goa. But what was your mode of transport, Kaushal?
So I have done Goa in perhaps all kinds of available transport except the sea route, which is now opening up.
Okay.
Now you even have a ferry. I don't know if most of your listeners would know this, but now there is a ferry that can take you from the airport, which is the Vasco region, all the way to Panji, and they are going to eventually also start services towards Shapora.
Okay.
So this is going to be a pretty interesting way of navigating around Goa pretty soon.
Absolutely, yeah.
Except for this, I've done all kinds of transport, right from buses, which is the most budget way of traveling around, to renting a bike and going around on your own, or renting a car and going around on your own. Or then so Goa has this very unique concept of pilots, which are essentially bike taxis.
Right.
So you ride pillion and the rider is just going to take you around.
Nice.
Perhaps half the price of a regular taxi. That's pretty interesting.
Right, yeah. And you
So-
can enjoy the city better as well, I think, when you're on a bike.
That's right. So if you have the most time and you're short on your budget, then the best way is buses. The only challenge with buses is they work on a hub and node system. So if you have to go from, say, Vagatol to Panji, you can't go directly from Vagatol to Panji. You have to go from Vagatol to Mapsa to Panji, and then get to your destination.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know Goa is pretty small as a state, but to get around it as well, there's a number of available ways of modes of transport, if I may.
Absolutely.
So
and it's only getting better.
Exactly.
It's only getting better.
Exactly.
So I also forgot to mention that the Goa tourism is also now tied up with this this company called Ho Goa, Hop On Hop Off Goa. So now they have also started these awesome services, which have a couple of routes, North Goa, South Goa, Panji itself. So you can just hop onto that. I think it's great value. So you pay like, I think, $300 and you can spend the whole day going around either North Goa, Panji, and just explore all of that if you just have one day.
Okay. Wonderful, nice. Wonderful. So for somebody who's short on time, there's this, and then somebody who has time and wants to do slow travel, you can always rent a bike and go around the place like Kaushal has done. And as you said, right, the only one that's remaining is the ferry service now, the sea route. And you can probably save that for your next trip, Kaushal. It's not far away, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So now that we have explored some of Japora and the places in the vicinity, right? Where do we continue heading off southwards, I'm assuming, right?
Yep. So as we go down south, then there is the Baga and the Mapsa rivers.
Right.
Okay. Now, these are again pretty commercial areas, so I don't know if I should get into this in detail.
Okay.
Baga, Arpora, Kandolim, I think these regions most people are pretty familiar with.
Yep.
The river there is kind of underrated because there are a lot of properties even by the riverside there. Even the flea market is usually around the riverside.
No.
Sure.
So that's that's one of the landmarks. But people forget that it's on the riverside.
Yeah,
so
especially the Arpora night markets, I think, right? That's right. The one which is very popular. Yeah.
Correct. Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of markets now, but they're always in or around the riverside.
Okay.
So as we go down south towards Mapsa River and its backwaters, this is an area which I have recently started just discovering.
Okay.
My friend Sharanya, she was on your show very recently. She did this extensively, and so has Shivya, who's also a fellow travel blogger. Right?
Sure.
These guys have extensively explored these regions. There's Karona, Olaolim, Korzue, and the Aldona villages or regions.
Okay.
Now, these are, again, lesser known, lesser explored regions, but again by the riverside of the Mapsa River. Very beautiful. I mean, if you just take a random picture there, you could just call yourself a photographer, saying, "Look how beautiful this picture is." That's how beautiful these regions are. Wow. I know it's very difficult when you just say it's beautiful, but there's no other way to explain. It's just lush green. It's not as commercial. There are no tall buildings. Have heritage properties. So it's just, that to me is just a great way of living.
Yeah, and I think beauty is like when that green of the trees meets the blue of the water, and the water just goes.
And the browns of the earth.
Yes,
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's perfect. And the sky, of course, the play of colors.
So that's a great region. I just went to Korzue and Aldona, but the Olaolim and Karona areas I still have to explore.
Okay.
Korzue and Aldona are again regions where you can go to by bus, but you will need a lot of time. So don't go there for just a day. You will need at least 2 days to explore that region.
Okay.
And things to do there would be nothing. Just soak in and
relax,
soak in the local vibe. So I'll come down south towards the Mandovi, which is which is perhaps the heart of Goa.
Yeah, and one of the bigger rivers also, right?
Yes, absolutely. The Mandovi and Zuari, according to me, the biggest rivers in Goa.
Yeah.
The Mandovi is, besides being a trade route, besides being also open to a lot of casinos, and casinos are a very debatable and a tricky thing, especially for Goans. But because it brings business, it's a very difficult decision for whether or not to allow them. But Mandovi houses all of that. There are the casinos. There are also these cruises, which people can just go on a luxury or a leisure cruise.
Okay.
But the region is, again, although it's right by the capital, the Panji, it's still not. If you look at the constructions going on there right now, there's a third bridge coming up, a steel bridge, which is massive. So that's the only thing which is which can possibly intimidate you. But otherwise, that region is still pretty nice and clean when you compare it to the rest of India. At least it's still very charming to me, especially Panji.
Okay.
So Panji for me is all about these heritage walks, fontenas, Old Goa. These regions are actually even accorded the UNESCO World Heritage walk title, right? So these are lovely, beautiful regions to just walk around. Again, by the riverside, on the north of that, there is Reis Magos. Then there is, and as you go south, there is Panji, Old Goa, Ribandar. But what's pretty interesting about the Mandovi River is that it also has a lot of tiny islands.
Okay.
Tiny and big, both tiny and large. So it has 2 islands which I recently discovered just about 2 months ago, which is the Wanshi and the Saint Esteban Island.
Okay.
So Saint Esteban Island is actually a place which has the smallest ferry crossing in Goa. It's so small that you can literally have a conversation with the person on the opposite side. I'm not exaggerating. It's that's how small the ferry ride is, but it's super. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's cute. It's a very interesting experience to have there. Then there is the Diwar Island and the Shorao Island. Diwar Island is to me a great place to explore if you have not a bike, but I would say bicycle.
Okay.
Because bikes are, of course, a good way to get around from point A to point B. But if you just want to explore a place like an island, like a Diwar or a Shorao, perhaps the best way would be to do it on a cycle. Shorao Island also has the Dr. Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary.
Yep.
Right.
Our own birdman, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say that if you're going there for bird spotting, pretty much all of Goa is a great place for that. You don't necessarily have to go to Shorao Island for that.
Okay.
But it's a lovely, tranquil place. You can go there ideally in the mornings, early mornings as early as possible, or then evenings before sundown so that you can at least see things.
I think those are the best timings to spot birds as well.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, early mornings ideally.
Right.
Awesome. And just to touch upon, because we are also visiting these little islands, right, while we are by the river, in terms of the architecture of the place, do these places still have that stark Portuguese influence that we were speaking of earlier?
So I would think that the islands have a mixed heritage. So it's got so Saint Esteban especially has a very mixed heritage. It's got a little bit of Portuguese and Catholic influence, and then there is a little bit of Hindu influence.
Okay.
So it's mixed. I don't understand architecture, but I can tell you that it's a mixed kind of heritage there, right?
Yeah.
So there as well as so as you go towards the mainland, which is Panji, you will find mostly Portuguese influence, but the islands have a very mixed kind of a heritage. Yeah, definitely.
So wonderful. Now that we've seen parts of Mandovi and the areas surrounding villages around it, where do you head off to from here, Kaushal?
Oh, before we head south, do you want me to pause for a bit and talk about the food? Where since Panji.
Yeah.
Since I promised I'm going to
absolutely.
pause.
Otherwise, Fazal go crazy.
So this is specifically for. I'll first start about what's there for the pescatarians, for people who love fish.
Sure.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So around Panji, some of my favorite places to eat. One is this place called Anand Ashram. It's it's basically a very simple restaurant. It's a budget place. A thali there costs roughly 100 rupees, maybe less, but it's an unlimited thali. You can eat as much as you want.
Seriously, wow.
Yes. So it's a local friend of mine introduced me to this place. So of course it's going to be legendary.
Right.
So this place you will get a fish thali for less than $100. And my favorite fish around here are the locals. So if you go there, typically a tourist would be served a kingfish or shark and all these fish which are commercial.
Right.
But if you ask the locals, for them, their favorites are chonak. That's CHONAK, chonak.
Okay.
That's also now become my favorite just because I hang around there with a lot of locals. I love the taste as well.
Really? Okay.
There is chonak, there is motso, MOTSO.
Okay. I've never heard of these names, yeah.
Yeah. They also love a lot of clams and shells. So locals usually eat a lot of those.
All right.
And of course, there are different kinds of preparations. There is shakuti, there is vindaloo. So there are a bunch of
I've
different...
heard a lot of vindaloos, yeah. Pork vindaloo,
Yes.
chicken, mutton vindaloo, yes.
Yep. So there are a bunch of preparations. But then if you want to try something very, very local, then one is Anand Ashram. There is one more slightly on the higher side in terms of pricing, but a great experience overall. Konkani Canteen.
Konkani Canteen? Okay.
That's right, yeah, Konkani Canteen. So that was also told to me by a local, and love that place. Amazing food. So sometimes the service there would be a little not so good because it's so popular.
Okay.
But go there for the food and forget about the service.
Absolutely. And I think we should try the local fish also.
Yes.
Right, because I mean, you would get like the kingfish and all the other fishes here in your whichever city you're staying in. But these fishes, what you just mentioned, never heard of them. Maybe they're locally called something else here, but you never know. You might not be getting them as well. So, okay, we have to try the new ones.
Totally, you must try these ones. So there's these thali places. There is Konkani Canteen for, again, local food. Then there is DTR, which is one of my favorite places to hang around. It also has great local food. I could go on and on about the places here, but I just want to talk about these food preparations. If you really want to splurge, I would also go to the Taj, which is at Fort Aguada.
Okay.
So why I'm mentioning this is because if you really want to splurge and try the local cuisine, they have this thali, which is again unlimited.
Okay.
And for Taj pricing, 1,000 rupees is not bad at all.
Yeah.
And it's a legendary thali. You must try that thali at the Taj Aguada Fort.
Okay, I really like the concept of unlimited fish. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So post this, I would probably want to talk about the sweets, which Goa is also known for. So Goa has a bunch of different sweets. Some come down from the Portuguese to us, like the serradura. I don't know how you pronounce it, serradura or serradura.
Okay.
Serradura essentially means sawdust. So it's a weird name, but it's essentially condensed milk with biscuit powder. So it may sound really boring, but you have to try it. You can try it either at Konkani Canteen, which I mentioned earlier.
Right.
You also try it at Mr. Baker, which is a pretty famous chain of cafes across Goa.
Okay.
My other favorites are bibink. So bibink is another local delicacy. So bibink is like this layered cake.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Phenomenal. And within Panji, the best place to pick that up is a place called Confeiteria 31 de Janeiro. That's 31st of January.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, see, now the polyglot and Kaushal is speaking up, but I won't try to repeat that after you.
That's how the local would also call it, Confeiteria 31 de Janeiro. That's 31st of January. It's a little hidden, so you'll have to ask around as you enter Fontenas to check with the locals where this place is, for it has legendary bibinka. I mean, you can always pick it up at other places also, but this is my favorite place.
Right.
And then there is dodol, which is similar to bibink, but it's a little slightly darker. It's made from dates, way more heavier, way more sweeter, according to me. Okay. But personally, I prefer dodol to bibink.
Okay. How do you pronounce it?
D-O-D-O-L, dodol.
Dodol.
For that, my favorite place is a place called Cafe Morango. That's M-O-R-A-N-G-O, which is strawberries in Portuguese.
Oh, nice. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Quite different, but yeah.
Totally. It's a lovely place where you can pick up, according to me, the best dodol.
Okay.
And the third one is a very, very local thing called Vonn. That's D-O-N-N. Vonn, V-O-N-N. Now this has a very interesting history. It was something which the rich folks, I mean, I'm trying to find the right words to say these things, but rich folks at that time would, when they would do service and serve people who were less fortunate, they would call it Gariban Che Jevan or Bikaren Che Jevan. And so that was something. So they would have different items in that meal, and then the sweet would be called Vonn, which is, you could, for lack of a better explanation, I would say it's like a liquefied dodol. But if you ask me, this is my favorite thing ever, perhaps more than dodol. So if you ask me, it's, number one would be Vonn, then dodol, then bibink, and then serradura. So if you want to check out the best Vonn, firstly, it's not available in every place you would go to in Goa. It's not that easy to find it. So you could try it at this place called Chef Peter's Restaurant.
Okay.
It's in the Sangolda region. So Sangolda is north of Panji,
Okay.
less than half an hour from Panji. And the restaurant's name is called Chef Peter's Restaurant.
Chef Peters.
Chef Peters, yeah. And he specializes in all these forgotten and older recipes of Goa, which are they're forgotten now. So
Right. Awesome. That's okay. There are a lot of new sweets to learn about because generally whenever anybody comes from Goa, they would just get the bebinka.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, at least I personally am aware only of that. But yeah, so many new things. I think look forward to eating all of them.
Yes. And do try them at these specific places, even if you try them elsewhere.
Right.
And let me
Faiza was supposed to go on a diet, by the way.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
just putting it out there.
That's not happening in my company. So I think before we get carried away by the food, we can continue down south towards Zuari and Sal, which are so these rivers I have not explored as much as the others, as Mandom, Shapora, for example.
Okay.
But the areas around them are, again, very, very interesting. For example, by the Zuari riverside, there is an area called Lutolim,
Okay.
which has these heritage houses of Goa. If you still want to see those old Portuguese mansions in a way, I wouldn't even call them houses.
Okay.
They're beautiful mansions. You must go to this area called Lutolim. Then around the Sal River, then there is the Kavelosim, Varka, Asolna and Navelim regions. We could go down to all the way to the Agonda and Palolim backwaters now.
Okay.
So for me, if you ask me my favorite beach in the whole world, forget about India, has got to be Palolim.
Okay.
Now, I know I'm getting into the beach side again, into the side, but it's because both Agonda and Palolim have backwaters.
Oh, okay.
And these are really pretty, really unexplored. Even if people go to these beaches, they don't typically go to these backwaters. So I would highly recommend going there, even if it is just for a walk or just for a short boat ride. Agonda and Palolem backwaters also give you access to a bunch of other places. So, for example, from Palolem, you can also do the beaches of Butterfly and Honeymoon. Now I know I'm digressing and getting into the beach side, but these are lesser explored. That's why I'm mentioning these.
Yeah.
So these backwaters are just great for just, either doing a boat ride or exploring them on your own, just walking around there, because there are walking paths as well. It's not like you can only go there by boat.
Right.
And then from there, if you go down south, now usually people end at maybe at the most Patnem. So Agonda, Padolem, then there is Patnem. There are a bunch of smaller beaches around there as well. People don't typically go beyond that because the Talpona and Galjibag and Rajbag beaches and the riversides around it most of them only have 5-star or luxury properties and very few budget properties. But even if you're not staying there, I would highly encourage going there to just check out the riversides there.
Okay.
Of course, the beaches are also accessible. It's not like because they are 5-star properties, you can't visit the beaches. You can still go there.
Right.
But the riverside of Talpona and Galjibag are also extremely beautiful. There are now budget, I wouldn't say budget, but medium range properties also coming up around the riverside there. So Talpona and Galjibag are actually areas, again, I mentioned about doing bicycle rides around the islands in the Mandovi River, right?
Right, yes.
So similarly, I would also encourage or suggest doing that around Agonda, Palolem, Talpona and Galjibag. Because this is again a lovely region to be doing that.
Okay.
Doesn't have as much as traffic as the north does. Very tranquil, very peaceful, very picturesque. So great to go around on a bicycle.
Right. I can just imagine Alia Bhatt, I think, on a bicycle going around Goa. Yeah.
Yeah. That, by the way, just a little bit, if your listeners want to know where she falls off the bicycle.
Right.
That was in the region called Para in the north of Goa.
Okay.
It's very near to the Vagator region, which I was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
apparently one of the beaches that is shot in the movie is the beach at Morjim. So I was just wondering, it's perhaps the one where where he plays, Shah Rukh plays kabaddi, right? He does kabaddi.
Yes,
kabaddi.
yes. Yeah.
So perhaps that one.
I didn't know that as well. I didn't know that info.
Yeah. So yeah, nice. Welcome digression, I guess.
Yes. But I think that brings us to the end of at least the coastline and the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
The only place which I have not explored yet, but I recommend going to because all my friends who've been there have freaked out and loved that place. It's the Kola Beach Lagoon.
Okay.
It's a lagoon. You couldn't call it either the beach nor a river, but it's a water body and it's lush, beautiful. Not easy to access by car. Yeah. I know bicycles can go there. People can trek there. It lies slightly north of Agonda Beach.
Mm-hmm.
So you will have to be around Agonda to reach Kola Beach Lagoon.
Okay.
If you just look up pictures of this place, you will want to go for sure.
Yeah, you've left it like a little mysterious place at the end also that one should go check out for himself or herself.
Including me, because even I want to go there.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. Is there more to the Riverside Goa that you wanted to call out, Kaushal, before we move on towards the end of the interview?
Well, at least in my notes, I think I've covered most of the things.
Mm-hmm.
If there is anything which I've missed out on, I could probably leave that in the comments. But the one thing which I had saved for the last was Faiza and I was talking about the importance of not contaminating rivers, right? So that's something which I'm really passionate about. I discovered this non-profit, and when I say non-profit, you're actually a non-profit. I know they are not doing anything commercial. Called Jeevit Nadi.
Okay.
Their website is called jeevitnadi.org.
All right.
What I like about them is they are not only promoting and educating people about how you can reduce your pollution and wastage, and thereby keeping our rivers as clean as possible, but they also give you free toxin-free lifestyle ideas. What I mean by that is, so for example, if you use shampoo and soap and all that, today they are all chemical-based, right?
Right.
What these guys give you is recipes. So they're not saying come buy it from us. You can make it on your own from your, just picking up these ingredients from a local shop, from Ayurvedic or a Unani or these kind of places where you get these ingredients.
Right.
And you can make your own shampoo or toothpaste, for example. And it may sound really weird, but I have personally tried these things as well. And they don't just feel good, smell good. They actually land up not polluting, right? Because they're all organic things.
Right.
So do try out, visit that website and see.
Yep.
Right.
We will definitely link that up in the show notes section of the podcast episode as well. I think on that very wonderful note of how responsible one can be while traveling as well, right? It's not just about going and absorbing the sights and sounds of the place. You also can contribute back by helping to preserve it, and Jeevit Nadi is one such endeavor. As I said earlier, we will definitely link that in the show notes section so you can go check them out for yourselves. But Kaushal, I would love to thank you very, very much for coming and sharing this hidden gem of Goa, right? Because as we said at the beginning, Goa is synonymous with beaches, with partying, with the music, with the people, with the tourists, with all those things. Thank you so much for taking us to this lesser known parts of Goa. But tell us how our listeners can read more about your work, about your travels, and keep in touch with your work.
Sure, Seth. So, like you mentioned earlier, my blog is called exoticgringo.com. That's the same handle on Twitter and Instagram, which is @exoticgringo. That's GRINGO.
Okay.
And on Facebook, it is Go with Gringo. So fb.com/Go with Gringo. Thank you so much, guys, for having me over. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I've been wanting to be on this podcast for the longest time. I love the content you guys do. Since a lot of people who I love listening to and fellow travelers have been on your podcast, it's an absolute honor. And thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much.
Because I think this is one of the longest ongoing conversations I think Kaushal and I had. We started off exactly a year ago about having Kaushal on the podcast.
Yes.
And life happened, I guess. The other things kept coming up. But as they say, der aaye durust aaye, right? We're very, very happy to have you. And thank you so much, Kaushal. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Kaushal.
Likewise, Seth. Likewise, Faisal. Thank you so much, guys.
That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Audioboom, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.